Silent Hill Shattered Memories features a very exciting gameplay mechanic that we refer to as psychoprofiling. This is a brand new way of telling stories in a video game. It's a way that makes the stories more personal and more interactive. It's a very progressive way of telling stories in a game that is far more interesting and deep than just offering branching routes through a story with explicit kind of player choices. So in Silent Hill Shattered Memories there is a framing device in which the player recounts events to the game's psychiatrist Dr. K. Dr. K then speaks directly to the player, asks them questions about their own psychology and experiences, and asks the players to perform tests. Dr. K will then also make observations about the player's personality in-game. Take it away, Dr. K.
Let's get started then. How would you like to die? No, wait, let me guess. You want to die in your sleep. You'd like to die having sex. You'd want to die surrounded by family. You'd want to die surrounded by friends. It's academic, really, as we're only truly conscious of death when it happens to others. Get to my age, you'll have seen plenty of people die. There 1 minute, then gone. Okay, game time.
So here we're going to see one of Dr. K's tests. There are many tests in the game. They're all tactile and interactive. Here Dr. K is going to ask you to tell him which of these pictures shows someone who is dead and which shows someone who is sleeping. The game can then analyse the player's choices here to determine how their brain works and use this as information to drive some of the psychological profiling. A lot of the tests in the game are tests that are used by real psychiatrists. They are interpretive and projective tests. Now the testing that is done by Dr. K accounts for about 25% of the data we have on the player. The rest of the data, the 75% outside of these psych sessions, is taken from watching the player as he plays the game, observing which items the player is interested in, how long he spends looking at them, routes he takes. Does he go straight through this door here, or does he investigate and look around, look for alternative routes? When the player interacts with puzzles, does he do so in an analytical way? Does he just rush in and try and solve things by brute force? Does he sit back and take his time? Is he interested in story-based items, in items to do with facts? Is he interested in sexual imagery in the environment? Does he consult his map often? Does he use the annotation feature on his map? So we're constantly tracking everything the player does, noticing the small details. The game is constantly spooling data and using this to analyse the player's psychology. So here, does he take the left or right option? Does he follow the sign to the exit and proceed quickly, or does he start investigating and playing around? When he gets to this choice here, which toilet does he go into? The male or female toilet? That's giving insight into his attitude towards sex. Now, once we have all this information on the player, it gives us a very accurate portrait of his personality, and we then leverage the decades of research into personality to tweak elements of the game. So here the player is about to meet the character Michelle for the first time, and what we want the player to do is to fall for Michelle and find her a character that they're attracted to and see as a friend. The research gives us insight that allows us to change the appearance of Michelle, change the way in which she's introduced, the clothes she wears, the lighting of the environment, to create a character that the player is more personally attracted to. So here we see a Michelle who is a bit more introverted, a bit more conscientious. The way she's dressed is less overtly sexual and flirtatious. As she climbs down from the stage, she's fairly awkward, and the things she's saying to the player imply that she's a slightly socially awkward character. And this is aligned to a particular personality. Then here is another run through the game. This Michelle is wearing red, is dressed a lot more a sexual way. She's more flirtatious, she acts in a much more extroverted way. Acts like she enjoys parties and is the centre of attention. And the way she acts towards the player, she takes the lead. So both of those were attuned to particular personality profiles of the player. We also used the psychological profiling to change the way characters react to the player's actions. There's a lot of psychological research that tells us how players would expect characters to react. We can either play to that to give them something that they've expected, or play against it to put them on edge. So here the player has been caught spying on a girl getting changed. And in this playthrough, she's angry with him and annoyed, and the player's going to feel bad and guilty about this and very uncomfortable. Whereas in this playthrough, surprisingly, the girl doesn't mind being spied upon. This is all in line with the way the player's thinking.
Michelle?
Here we meet another character, Dahlia,
Who the hell is
The appearance of
Michelle?
Dahlia and the way she's introduced has many
More
variations,
wasted than I
where the
am.
lighting changes, the props change, the
Michelle?
way the character acts and speaks, the clothing she wears are
Can we
different.
go now?
And these are to push different buttons of the player. Here again we see several versions of the entrance to the nightclub sequence in the game. There are many more versions of this in the game, but you can see the lighting has changed to make it more intense and sultry and sexual, or far more plain. We're playing on different aspects of the player's personality here, trying to create a scene that's more emotionally evocative for different players.
I need your help.
Now here we're playing on the aspects of the player's personality that will tell us their approach to authority figures.
Okay, sir? Not a good
For
night.
players
Yeah,
who
but-
have an expectation that authority figures will
looking for my
behave
daughter.
within the confines of their role and
Take a
will be
seat.
reliable, we give them a cop who is kind of sleazy and lazy, therefore upsetting the player. Whereas players who have a lack of respect for authority figures and see them as a kind of big brother, we give them a nice, personable cop. Again, very different reactions from the player, but we're playing against their expectations to try and surprise them and give them a game experience which is constantly showing them things they weren't expecting.